Neil Twa knows what it takes to create passive income through Amazon, and he literally wrote the book on it. His playbook, Almost Automated Income with FBA, is helping sellers maximize profits while minimizing effort. If you want a step-by-step guide to financial freedom, stick around to the end. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's great to be
Yeah, it's
here.
a pleasure. Really happy you're here.
Yeah, man.
So just jump right in. You've
Yeah.
helped entrepreneurs build 7 and 8 figure Amazon brands.
Yeah, I do it for a specific reason, right?
Okay, yeah, tell me.
Well, I don't do it for a course or program or all that other nonsense. We're business builders. We own 8 brands ourselves. We control 10 other brands with partnerships, and we're in acquisition modes of companies 10 to 50 million in size. So let's get this off the table real quick. There's nothing, coursey about what I do. What I do is I train CEO operators, owner operators who have the ability to learn a process and a system by which we build a business done with them to becomes an exitable opportunity in years 4 or 5, maybe 6, depending upon which channels they want to open up and how fast and far they want to go. And then I become the acquisition partner. So the goal with each one of them is to get them into a position to exit and to exit to us.
Now, is that what you call your pay to profit, pay as you profit mentorship?
Yeah, there's a pay as you profit component to it, which is to get them through their first 100K in net profits, or we forfeit $10,000 of our fee. So I had to bet on the right person to get to that goal and that orientation 12 months after revenue starts, because everybody should know that business does not start until revenue starts, which means you have to sell something. And starting an LLC or wishing you started one or thinking I started a business but have not sold anything, that is not a business. That's an opportunity.
So true. So why did you create that mentorship model?
In 2019, when I started this component of what we call Voltage Portfolios, which was a part of our holding division called Voltage Holdings, where we own our brands and we own our software and we own other things we do with our partners, I was actually capital raising. I was setting out to raise as an incubator of products and brands, what's called an aggregator in the space of Amazon. Which, they raised about a billion, in capital. I raised about 100 million between a couple of home offices in about 2 years to go out and acquire Amazon companies. So in that process of that, I realized, and my partner realized, in the pro forma, the numbers will tell the story. And in the end, the market had, seized up too much excitement and was buying everything at 30 and 40% above market just to grab the businesses before a competitor got to it. And when we realized that was occurring, we did not want to be a part of that. So I ended up in November 2021 or so, I ended up shutting that initiative down because I did not want to take capital and deploy it at 30, 40% above cost. And when we realized they were doing that, we knew it was going to come back down. A long story short, it did. About 3 years later, it imploded because of the greed that was setting that in motion. And I was not involved in any of that. But in the process, I made a lot of connections, right? A lot of business, a lot of connections, a lot of high level networking. And in that, most of them would come back and be like, what are we going to do now? Like, can we build? Can we buy? Can we do something? Like, show us the way. And I was like, okay, well, let me show you what I'm doing. And so we got a couple people going, and then too many people wanted my time, so we had to start charging for it. It's like, I'm doing all this for free. And so we built the business builders component, which also led us to the opportunity to employ people through their own businesses, but also into the mechanism by which I don't have employees, I have operators. I have made operators and CEOs successful at the business. And so when we have a going concern, we want to get developed, or we have a partnership we want to bring on, or we have a business we're acquiring, we prefer veterans to help the veteran community, and I'll talk about that some more. But I also train up those operators who can then partner with us, become percentage owners in equity with some of the deals we're doing. They work our process. They built the business. They have success in it. So I go back to the well and ask who wants to help us operate this company, and I choose the best of the people who are already running a successful store and brand, and then we partner with them on those deals. So that keeps me from having any employees, which I used to have once upon a time, and that don't really want to do that anymore. That was cool for a little bit and also sucked.
So what are the key elements of that business builders plan?
Yeah, so really it's learning how to learn what the heck do I sell? Like the number one question everybody has, like, that's great, but what do I sell? Tell me what you sell, and then maybe I'll have an idea of something I can sell. Well, it doesn't really matter what I sell. I can sell anything in box to anybody because I'm pretty confident in that. What I need you to understand is, how did I get to that point? So it's something you can replicate, and it really starts with conditioning your mind away from consumerism and towards becoming a producer. And looking at everything around you as, instead of a consumer mindset, well, I could buy that. could I build it? And actually, it struck me a long time ago in this process. I was up with my third daughter and I was feeding her a bottle. Mom was super tired. I'm a late night owl, so I'm up like 2, 3, 4 anyways. And she needed fed. So I got up, I did that. And I was sitting in front of the couch flipping through stupid infomercials at 4 a.m. and up pops this thing called seat pets. And I'm like, oh, wow, I should buy one of these. I got 3 young kids. We got seat belts. We travel. It's this cool thing and it attaches and keeps their head from falling over. And looks like these little dogs and animals. And then I woke up the next morning and I snapped at me. I was like, wait, I should sell one of those. Maybe I could sell one of those. Like, they got a huge infomercial going on. They're obviously putting a lot of money into the marketing. I went to Amazon and they had a really sucky marketing on Amazon. And I thought, oh, we could maybe do this. So I went to my partner. He said, hey, let's make a couple of innovations. Like, we didn't invent anything. We just made some tweaks. We made them look a little more anime. We put a little bit better stitching with some better polyfill. So they were a little softer. We basically answered the questions that people didn't like about the ones that were on Amazon. And I launched a 2,000 unit run at it. And in 8 weeks, we sold all out of it completely organically. Wow. Right. So that was hooked. I said, okay, can we do this again? And we ordered another 2,000. We sold that out as fast as we did the last time. I think, okay, we can build this into a big brand. And that struck was what we call the as seen on TV side of our network. Later on, I actually ended up meeting Kevin Harrington, who became a friend of mine and wrote the foreword to my book because he is the as seen on TV guy. And it turns out my strategy of developing that literally it got in tune with his strategy later on. And he's even on a presentation with me and been on podcasts. And we've done some business over the years, which has been fun. But that's part of conditioning that first question about what do I sell? And here's the most important part. You might be confused by this, Mike. A lot of people are. I don't sell products. Okay. AI engines, technology, and warehouses sell, deliver, and manage products. That's now an automated system. And in the last 3 to 5 years, it's become super automated.
That's amazing stuff. I mean, I once worked for a company that, as a consultant, who he had 3 engineers on staff who would look at products, and figure out how to knock the product off without violating their patents.
Right. Well, going around patents is important, of course. I don't want to step on somebody's patent. I also don't want to spend the 2 to 3 or 4 years it takes to get a patent and the hundreds of thousands of dollars before I ever get to market. Because ask me how I know. I've done that before. Yeah. And that was not the easiest way to get a really cool product that no one's ever going to hear about in the market because it died and never made it to market. Not recommended. So we say sales fixes everything around here. Sales fixes everything. So if I teach people, all right, how to learn to become great sales entrepreneurs, okay, aspiring or existing entrepreneurs, to open that opportunity to really understand the conditional aspect of data-driven analytic selling, not emotion, not maybe I'm trying to catch the latest trend, mostly like I'm trying to stay and get in a demand that is flowing 24/7, 365. And I simply want to make the best product opportunity in that market, drop it in there and say, hey, guess what? You really need this one. You might have wanted something, but now you really want this one. And really present it, and so they can buy it in 30 seconds or less.
So what should an entrepreneur be thinking about from day one if they eventually want to sell their business and exit?
So when we talk about this, what we have to do is plan in a business, a 5-year plan. We don't sit down and spend 6 weeks thinking about it. I'll give it to you right now in about the next 10 seconds. You build from the beginning with the end in mind. Okay. There's more money to be made in the end than at any time during the business building phase. So as we build assets, think about it like real estate in a virtual world. We're building up a virtual real estate. We're building all the amenities. We're building top tier everything into this because we know that it's going to appreciate, as all assets do, in time. And then when time comes for me to sell it, I'll make more when I sell it than waiting for the next 2 to 3 years to try to make up for the additional income. When I have that knowledge and strength, and I understand economics to the degree that inflation is transitory and it never stops, when I have an opportunity to sell that business, I gain back that 2 to 3 years of capital immediately. I can deploy it into other areas and put that soldier to work and go right back into the market and do it again. Do it again with a different brand, faster and better capitalized. So when people understand this concept, they typically have backgrounds in real estate or portfolio or Airbnb, or they've been building, they have an asset-driven business mind to some degree, or they've considered it and understand how it works. I'm just playing in the virtual real estate world. Okay, but I have a physical inventory attached to it. For me, that made a whole lot of sense, being somebody who came from the digital world. When I got into the physical product world, it's like the light bulb went off.
So what tells you that a product won't be profitable? What are some key red flags?
Well, I have an actual system that red flags it. It's called the green light process. So we have our metrics built in. We have all of our success metrics based on our existing products and brands and customer products we've seen do very successful in the market. And we built in parameters by which we won't sell a product that doesn't go green light. It's literally green, yellow, and red. If it's red, clearly don't sell it. If it's yellow, maybe you accelerate or you change something to make it green. If it's completely green, we take it to manufacturing. We validate the cost of goods and services up to a 40-foot container. If it will stay a projected green over 12 months of selling that product, then we test the market. All right. And when we don't test the market with thousands of units, that was a mistake I made a while ago. I hit it good on the product with the belt buddies. However, that's not always how it works, and it's not the safest way to deploy capital. The safer way to deploy capital is to do what we call our 5x5 methodology, which applies to the green light. If I find a green light product, I launch 5 of them, right? 5 tests and marketing tests, law of averages. Okay. I will figure out how to speak, talk, and understand the avatar that wants that product. Remember, it's marketing first, product second, right? When you buy a product, Mike, do you buy the product you have in your hand or the idea or the one you have right now? Or are you buying from a listing, an image, a graphic, a copy that says, well, in 2 days, I'm going to get the product I actually want?
Probably the second way.
Yeah. You bought the solution. You bought the believable outcome that when it arrives, it's going to complete or do that solution. You're going to run faster, jump higher, lose weight, protect a dog, keep the kids safe, whatever that product is doing. There's an outcome to it. So once we understand that, then we understand we test the market first to see what it wants from us. We're not smart enough to tell the market what it wants. We're not Elon Musk. And if you think you are, you're completely upside down in this thinking process. You need to test the product. Law of averages kicks in. 1 or 2 of those products takes off. When they do, you deploy capital and marketing to the 1 or 2 that take off. Okay. Once we do that, we simply borrow a concept from good to great. Jim Collins, great book if you've never read it, sitting on the shelf right there. We hedgehog. Okay. When we hedgehog into 1 or 2 of those product variations we know work, what are we going to do? We're simply going to sell more of the same product and different packaging. Okay. We're going to pull the iWatch, iPad, notebook, iMac. Your kid's got one, your wife's got one, your significant other has one, boom, you got 20 of those. We're going to go wide. We're going to hedgehog into that so that we have 10, 15 SKUs later on running in a 7 to 8 figure business that are all within exactly the same vertical, hyper relevant product, listing, marketing, outcome. And then they say success is boring. So you go launch another brand.
You started at IBM.
I did.
How did it shape your approach to e-commerce?
Great question. Well, I mean, IBM is a very digital business. It's kind of the top tier in the end of high-tech companies until now AI companies and stuff have come out, and many of them are starting to change up the way we see technology and growth. In the day, back in 2000s when I was working with IBM, they were kind of the technological innovations. They did 18,000 patents a year were awarded out of their office in Armonk, and I got to spend some time up there hanging out with the Watson Superblue team and playing on the Cray computer and doing, human machine language learning and artificial intelligence and knowledge management of services. So I was heavily into that, a long time ago. And from what I can see now, though, is with that, technology kind of prepared me for the realization that the internet was going to be riding on those technologies, right? It was going to be riding on systems of understanding, learning, knowledge, machine language learning, and then AI language, large language model learning. We were doing that with like 40% accuracy in the early 2000s, 5, 7 timeframe before I left IBM. And so it really set me up to understand how the internet was going to work, not just then, but where it was going into the future. And so I always, in the digital marketing world, eventually I started to pick up on how the systems were catching up with marketing. And then when I realized I needed to own the offer because I was doing digital in marketing, lead generation, and mobile, I just didn't own the other outcome. I didn't own the whole business. When somebody changed the product, I had to change with them. And that got really frustrating. So the transition in there was to learn that, digital has a huge forefront of what we're doing. It controls all the systems that we're operating on constantly, from the viral components to the demand systems like Amazon and Etsy and other platforms like Walmart. But in the end, those systems are controlled by people and products. And so that's one of the major things I learned about people, process, and technology at IBM. Was to learn how to adapt that into a marketing and an engine. And while I failed forward through a number of processes, I finally connected the dots, which was the digital and physical component for me. And it made complete sense, and it sort of unlocked everything. It was also a stepping stone out of the corporate world. While it is a corporate shop, I was in a startup called Sprint PCS when we launched the first mobile phones. And that was a literal startup in the late 90s. And with that, I got to watch a company go into a hypergrowth situation from the inside out. I was the 5,000th badged employee that got hired from all of side Sprint's telco. They were putting this division together, and they hired everybody from within to launch these mobile phones. So nobody knew what the hell they were doing. And I got stuck as a 21-year-old kid with 5 people to manage who were like 20 years older than me. And I'm like, I don't know how to manage these people. I was like, well, this is your job. Figure it out. Oh, okay. So by the time we figured out how to take and construct that, we went from 2,500 support reps in a small 5,000 person thing to, by the time I left, there was 80,000 people and 25,000 reps.
Wow.
So it was an amazing hyper growth situation watching the mobile industry. And that really prepared me for what's possible in growth in business and scale. IBM, I got a laptop and a cell phone and was told, hang on, here's your credit card, go fly. So we called it I've been moved, because literally 2 to 3 times a week I was traveling. I was moving all the time. By the time I got to 2006, I was burnt out. I was like, man, I am done with this. I traveled nearly 300 days that year. I was on the road every weekend, all the time, living out of my suitcases, let the apartment go and just put stuff in storage and just flew from one place to another. On the weekends, I'd fly somewhere else. I'd go to a different city. I'd go hang out with friends. I'd just travel around because I had all these points and stuff, and I could fly anywhere and then fly back on the weekend, back to the next, consulting site. So it prepared me to think about how to manage my time, manage my situation, manage my budget. While I was with IBM, it was really preparing me to get out on my own. But even then, when I left in 2007 and fired the man and went out on my own, it took me about 3 years to figure out what I didn't know. Life comes at you fast.
Well, that's actually a pretty good segue into this question. So a lot of people, they leave their corporate jobs to start their own business, and most of them fail. Why did you succeed?
Because I failed multiple times. I just didn't give up. All right. When I say I burned the boats, I didn't burn the bridges. So I had network and connection, because I didn't just throw a Molotov cocktail in my life and disappear, like blowing up with me dramatically walking off in cinematic fashion. I literally burned the boats. I just said, I am never going back. I had a purpose. I had drive. I had a different initiative. I had just gotten married in March 2007. I got released in 2007 from in June, not long after, because I took an early retirement, which was an option that I really thought was possible. And then I just never looked back. There was just never going back. There was only going forward. My purpose and vision had changed as I got married. And then we found out in October that year we were pregnant. That whole purpose changed as well. And into some medical issues my wife had during her pregnancy that forced her on to bed rest. And so now I was kind of taking care of everything with no income. So it was like, yeah, make it or break it, right? And so I ended up having some really great success, but then I ran into some big failures too. One big failure that a lot of people are super afraid of, and I could tell you there's worse things. We went bankrupt, right? I got too leveraged into a business, too leveraged into an opportunity, and I had to start over. But I didn't go get a job. Right. And a lot of people laughed and mocked me. I had friends and family who thought I was stupid. They called me names. They just, it was a bad thing. Right. I had some of them who didn't want to talk to us anymore because they thought we were idiotic. Right.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So if everything you built disappeared tomorrow, Voltage Holdings, podcast, 100 million in sales, what's the first move you'd make to rebuild? And what would you do differently this time?
Well, if I had the money to pay for at least the taxes on my property, I wouldn't worry about where I live. So that's step one, because I got a family. I got 4 daughters and, my wife. And so that, as long as I pay for the taxes in 3 years, they can't take my property. And where we live in Missouri, we still, hopefully Florida does this soon and gets rid of their property taxes. Maybe Missouri will follow suit. So all I know is I got my house is paid for, so I wouldn't fall farther than that as long as I keep my taxes up for 3 years. So solve that problem first. And then next, obviously would be like, do I have enough food and water and all that stuff to keep things going? Okay, I'm fine with that. I got food and water here. We got a well, lights can be paid for. We'll figure it out. If I had to borrow from a credit card or whatever, I'd do it again. And ultimately what it would be used towards is the skills I know I have. I'd go right back into building a brand. I have enough products. I have enough property. If I lost it all, it's because I lost all the businesses, not just one. We're a holding company now. I would have somehow lost all of it. And in my world right now, that's like because the internet shut off. If you have to, for me, it's like, okay, how would I have lost it all? I would have lost it all because all of the business opportunities, our software and other companies all disappeared all at once. And literally it would be because the internet went off. Otherwise, something would still be running.
So if my listeners wanted to connect with you to find out more, how can they do that?
Well, first up, I believe we have a code. to give you out here. It's going to show up on the screen probably right now or in the notes. And it's to give away 10 free copies of the book, Almost Automated Income with FBA. There's resources, there's notes, there's 15 chapters of experts that I interviewed on my podcast, the High Voltage Business Builders podcast. And we talk about all the different steps, or the 5 steps really necessary to build an e-com company, and doing it from a fundamental strategy position. Okay, there's no tactical guide like in there to go step 1, step 2, step 3. That's not what this book is. This is the strategy by which you build a company, develop the resources. I even give you resources in there, examples of people who follow the steps that are laid out in that strategy, and of course resources and experts that talk about the finances and the research and the development and the mindset necessary, and thinking with a wealth without Wall Street mindset of betting on yourself, betting on your brand, betting on the business you can create, as opposed to trying to let somebody else do it for you. And that's all outlined in the book. Contact information is in there, of course. Voltage, the website is in there. And showing up, I'm sure, somewhere around now. Or you can go check out the presentation I did with Kevin Harrington, talks about the as seen on TV strategy, our green light process, along with my software and systems we use, and of course the methodology by which we do it.
This has been a masterclass in what it takes to win the e-commerce game. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's been an honor.
No problem. I really, really do appreciate you being here. So to our listeners, if today's episode lit a fire under you and you're ready to surround yourself with growth-minded tech leaders, it's time to step up. Join the Executive Tech Alliance. It's our private community for tech executives. And you can dig in deeper into strategies like the ones that Neil's just shared with us. And don't forget to use the code top tier to get a copy of Neil's book. And where smart leaders go to grow. So we'll be back here again next Wednesday for another episode of Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. Thanks so much for being here to listen and to learn.